this case is very disturbing. It is the kidnapping of Colleen Stan. And Colleen Stan is an American woman who was kidnapped and held as a sex slave by Cameron and Janice Hooker in their Red Bluff, California home for 7 years between 1977 and 1984. At Cameron Hooker's trial, Colleen Stan's experience was described as unparalleled in FBI history. Her case has received international publicity and has been the subject of multiple books, films, and television series. And I just read this case. Oh my gosh. This woman, God bless her. 7 years being held as a sex slave. We are going to get into the details. That is only the beginning of it. First, I want to say thank you to all my new subscribers. We've reached 500. Yo, I'm so happy and I'm blessed. And I'm just here to help you guys, help myself, help the community. And it's just cool to see everybody's winning. And let's just keep it up. Check out my mom's channel, Tingles ASMR. Shout out to Moonlightingles ASMR. I got a collaboration video coming out with her. It's my first collab. And I'm very, very excited. Alright. So like I said, it's a fair warning to all my more sensitive people, because I consider myself sensitive, and I was disturbed while reading this. So let's get on with this show. Alright. Oh, also shout out to ASMR for everyone. Much love. Alright guys, here we go. The kidnapping of Colleen Stan. Excuse me. In 1977, Colleen Stan was hitchhiking from her home in Eugene, Oregon, to a friend's home in Northern California, where she was heading to a birthday party. Cameron Hooker kidnapped 20-year-old Stan after picking her up. Stan stated that she was an experienced hitchhiker and had allowed 2 rides to go past before accepting the ride with Hooker. Please remember that. She let 2 cars go past, or maybe they passed her, before this car stopped. And this guy was 20 years old. Stan is 20. Oh, no. Colleen Stan is 20 years old. I'm sorry. Stan stated that she was an experienced hitchhiker and had allowed 2 rides to go past before accepting the ride with Hooker. She reportedly felt confident climbing into the blue van because Hooker's wife, Janice, and their baby were in the car. When they stopped at a gas station along the way, Stan went to use the bathroom. A voice told me to run and jump out a window and never look back, she recalled. But she calmed her fears and went back to the car. According to Stan and Janice Hooker's testimonies, once they were alone in the isolated area, Cameron Hooker pulled off the highway and put a knife to Stan's throat. She was subsequently locked in a wooden box, which was designed to prevent light, sound, and fresh air from entering. Okay, let's go back for a second, right? She's hitchhiking. She was heading to a birthday party, hitchhiking. 2 cars pass her. One stops. It's a blue van. It's a guy and his wife. She gets in the van. They stop at a gas station. At some point when they're isolated, no, wait, before that, they stop at the gas station. She has a thought about running away, just feeling weird. Then they get isolated and he puts a knife to be possible if I did not have light, sound, or fresh air. Alright, those are time to make jokes, but for real though, that's okay. So this part, this is her imprisonment. This is her story from the trial. Buckle in. Before this, Cameron Hooker was a lumber mill worker, and Janice or Janice had reached an agreement that he could capture a sex slave, or capture a slave to take Janice's place, because up until that time, Cameron had been using Janice to act out sexual bondage. There was to be no penetrative sex with Stan, according to the agreement, but this later changed. On the first night of her kidnapping, Stan was strung up by her hands, physically attacked by Cameron, and left blindfolded and suspended while the pair had sex below her. I don't want to read that again, but I will say it again. There was to be no penetrative sex with Stan according to the agreement, but this later changed. On the first night of her kidnapping, Stan was strung up by her hands, physically attacked by Cameron, and left blindfolded and suspended while the pair had sex below her. So they said that they had an agreement that he could capture a slave to take Janice's place, and there was to be, so he could not have sex with her. That was part of the agreement, but they said that changed. After her kidnapping, Stan stated, that she was tortured and kept locked in a box 23 hours a day until she was given a contract and forced to sign herself into slavery for life in January 1978. I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, I don't doubt it. In view from the box under her bed, propped up against her purse, Stan told ABC 10 News, was a photo Stan saw every day of Mary Elizabeth Spanek, a previous victim whose body was never found. Okay, so, she's in a box, and they said, in a view from the box under their bed, propped up against her purse, Stan told ABC 10 News there was a photo that she saw every day of Mary Elizabeth Spanek, and she was a previous victim. So not only are you locked in a box being tortured, you're staring at the picture of somebody who was there before you. Come on, this is some ish right here. She further stated that Cameron led her to believe that she was being watched by a large, powerful organization called The Company, which would painfully torture her and harm her family if she tried to escape. Stan subsequently became a slave referred to as K, just the letter K, was forced to call Cameron master and was not allowed to talk without permission. Cameron reportedly wanted Stan to be like the female character in the 1954 French erotic novel, The Story of O, and soon started raping her, which consisted of oral rape. Cameron did not want to have vaginal sex with Stan because he considered that to be a breach of it in his agreement with his wife. Instead, he raped her vaginally and anally with implements. Following this, the Hooker family moved to a mobile home in Red Bluff with Stan, where she was kept locked in a wooden box under the couple's waterbed. In 1978, Janice gave birth to a child on the waterbed above Stan. I mean, come on, guys, like, that paragraph was hard to read. Like, she was raped. Not just that, like, certain things. And then, like, she gave birth to a second child on the waterbed above Stan. Colleen Stan is this woman's name. Stan, Colleen Stan. So whenever I say that, just know. Colleen Stan said that her faith in God and belief in a chance of escape helped her survive. Yeah, she survived. It's punishments, Stan tried to comply with this commandment, which later led to her being allowed to go out to jog, work in the yard, care for the family's children in the mobile home, and help him build bigger accommodations, like an underground dungeon, for more slaves. Even with an open door, neighbors, and a telephone, she made no attempt to escape, as according to Stan, her fear of the company kept her from seeking help. Holy crap. So she's literally been allowed to go outside, to go jog, work around the house, and she's still not escaping because of the company. And not only that, she's building dungeons. She's building updates on the house, and like, you're building dungeons, you know, like you're in a box, like damn. Additionally, Stan was allowed to visit her family by herself in 1981, so that was like 6 years, but did not reveal her situation due to her fear of the possible consequences. Her family thought she was involved in a cult because of her homemade clothes, lack of money, and absence of communications over the years. They did not want to pressure her, fearing she would stay away forever. The next day, Stan returned for a second visit with Hooker, posing as her boyfriend. At the trial, Stan explained that she was happy about visiting her family, who were therefore able to take a photograph of her and Cameron happily smiling together. Alright, this is hands down the most effed up case I've ever read. It's the most interesting, the most messed up, the most disturbing, cruel, brutal. So she went to go see her family, and one day she went alone. Then the next day she returned with the guy who keeps her in a box and rapes her. And they have a photograph of them happily smiling together. According to Stan, Hooker feared he had given his slave too much freedom and took her back to his mobile home, where he locked her in the wooden box under his waterbed. She remained in the box 23 hours a day for the next 23 years. Bodily functions were dealt by with her using a bedpan, which she positioned under herself with her feet. It was stated in court that Hooker's children were told Kay had gone home. However, once his children had gone to bed, Hooker would take Stan out of the box to feed and torture her. She was reportedly not allowed to make any noise and had to lie still 23 hours at a time in the dark with little air to breathe. During the summers, conditions were especially harsh on her, as the temperature in her box would rise above 100 degrees, 38 degrees Celsius. To feed herself, she ate scraps of food. Oh my gosh. The worst part's over, but the next part is aftermath and consequences. This section is called Escapee and Trial, under Aftermath and Consequences. It was not until 1983 that Stan was reintroduced to the children and neighbors. So Colleen was finally reintroduced in 1983 to the children and neighbors. She was also allowed to get a job as a maid at a motel. Cameron Hooker wanted Stan to become his second wife, which was a turning point for Janice. Janice confessed that, starting with their first date, she had also been tortured, brainwashed, and referred to as a whore over the years by Cameron. Janice further stated that she survived the relationship by engaging in denial and compartmentalization. By August 1984, Janice began struggling with herself and went to Stan in order to inform her that Hooker was not part of the company. Okay, so Janice was done, and she went to Colleen and said, listen, that guy is lying to you. There is no such thing as the company. You don't need to be scared. But Colleen maintained that the organization did exist. And I think Janice said that too. No, Janice never said there was no company. My bad. Janice told Colleen Stan that as she then went to a bus station and phoned Hooker to inform him that she was leaving him, and that he reacted by bursting into tears. Stan subsequently caught a bus home. In the months that followed, she did not contact the police but continued to call Cameron Hooker regularly. She explained this at the trial by saying that she wanted to give Hooker, at Janice's request, a chance to reform. 3 months later, Janice reported her husband to the police. She informed Lieutenant D. Brown, Jerry D. Brown, of the Red Bluff belief that Cameron had kidnapped, tortured, and murdered Mary Elizabeth Spanhacke, who had disappeared on January 31st, 1976. Authorities were unable to locate the remains of the woman due to lack of physical proof. No murder charge was brought. So Denise finally reported it to the police about the first girl, but I don't think she reported about Colleen. Chris Hatcher, a forensic psychologist and criminal profiler, testified for Cameron's prosecution at the start of 1985 trial. Janice testified against her husband in exchange for full immunity. In the end, Cameron Hooker was sentenced to consecutive prison terms totaling 104 years for sexual assaults, kidnapping, and using a knife in the process. Originally ineligible for parole until 2023, he had his hearing date moved up 7 years to 2015 by California's elderly parole program. On April 16, 2015, his request for parole was denied, and Hooker will be eligible for another hearing in 2030. So there's some good news, right? She escaped. I mean, there's still more. There's still more I need to tell you, but at least she's not in the box. This guy had 104 years, and they denied his parole, and he won't know if he'll get it again until 2030. Post-trial. After the trial, Colleen Stan, our victim, studied for an accounting degree, and as reported by Mara Buffason in March 9, 2014, in a New York Daily News article, she tried to move on to a normal life, but misery followed her. A string of failed marriages and troubled child, a child named Danielle and Antonia Rodriguez, I think I said that wrong, is now in jail. So her 2 daughters are in jail. Colleen Stan also joined the volunteered for Reading Women's Refugee Center, an organization to help abused women. Janice reverted to her maiden name, Lashley. Janice reverted to her maiden name, Ashley. Became a registered associate social worker and has worked as a mental health professional. Stan has changed her last name. Both Janice and Stan continue to live in California. They do not communicate with each other. Holy crap. That's hands down one of the most disturbing stories I've ever read. And, like, that's the best ending you're probably ever gonna get from something that disturbing. You know what I mean? Like, that was... Holy crap. Can you imagine being locked in a box for that long? Like, that's too much. That's way too much. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Leave a comment down below of any cases you would want me to look up. I like stuff like this, so if you have any cases that are like this, the disturbing ones, the ones with like a lot of things that go